Hey friends, Saturday, I told you that we had a lot to go through. There's a reason why we did an all NVIDIA edition of Hot News yesterday. It's because we get to do an all AMD edition today, in case you thought we were shills for NVIDIA, which, Tank, we might be. They finally send us a Founders Edition. It smells different, I'll tell you that. It smells different than all the other graphics cards. Anyways, that is not going to affect my opinion on today's hot news. Anyways, let's talk about that after I let you know that today's video is brought to you by UFD Deals, in case you want to save money on computer parts around the internet, whether it be a 2060, a 1060, AMD cards, AMD CPUs, whatever you want. Check out UFD Deals at the link in the video description to save money. We get an affiliate kickback. You save money, we make money. Win-win. Time to move on to the hot news. So let's go ahead and talk about Navi, because there was a lot of information that actually did come out after the whole Radeon VII unveiling. We do have a lot of Radeon VII news to cover here. It's not just GPU stuff, we also got CPU stuff. So first up, after CES announcement, the CTO, Chief Technical Officer of AMD, did an interview. Mark Papermaster talked about what AMD's Radeon Technology Group's plans is for the rest of the year. So he said that what we do over the course of the year is what we do every year. We'll round out the whole roadmap. And then he added that we're really excited to start on the high end. You'll see the announcements over the course of the year as we round out the Radeon roadmap. So rounding out the 7nm plans basically means that they're going to be introducing Navi. The high end is the Vega 20 card. That's the whole point that we got Radeon VII first. It's supposed to compete at the top tier with the 2080 1080 Ti for $700. It's not really giving us much in the way of value, but it's the best that AMD can do for now. Navi, however, is supposed to be a mid-tier replacement. It's going to be replacing the likes of the RX 590, the RX 580, and so on and so forth. So it's supposed to be what everybody can afford. That's the general idea. And if we listen to rumors that came out a while ago, it should be roughly 1080 level performance for $250. Now you might be thinking, how could they possibly do that when they just released 1080 Ti level performance for $700? Well, it probably is because they're going to be using a whole new architecture. The reason Radeon VII is so gosh dang expensive is because they're using 16 gigabytes of HBM2, which is wrecking their costs. They're using more memory than is necessary for a gaming card, and they're using more expensive memory than is necessary for a gaming card. If they did 8 gigabytes of GDDR6, it would be a much cheaper card, except for the fact that AMD can't do that because they're already too deep into the life cycle of Vega, so they can't just re-engineer the memory interface. So we have to stick with HBM2 for Vega, but I can nearly guarantee, I can't nearly guarantee, but based on my good speculation, Navi should be on GDDR6 for better affordability, and it should give all of the memory bandwidth that it needs, whereas Vega needs 1 terabyte of memory bandwidth per second to actually be an effective GPU. So, rounding out the roadmap, you can see Navi is slated between 2018 and 2019 on the projected roadmap that AMD released previously. So, good indication that we will be getting announcements later this year to actually figure all of this out. And considering that the RX 590 is relatively new, it's only 2 to 3 months old at this point, them releasing Navi at CES probably would have been a little ambitious. AMD didn't seem to be in the position that NVIDIA is in, where they have to actually sell out of a bunch of extra stock. It definitely seemed like they were releasing the RX 590 to actually introduce a new competitor, because they don't have anything that can really line up against the 1060 at an affordable price point, besides the 580, but it's getting a little long in the tooth. Anyways, but then we have new rumors saying that the Navi GPU should be unveiled sometime in June, with the higher end models coming out later. So again, the RX 580 level replacement is kind of what we're looking at here, and they're expecting that it's going to be sometime in E3. So this is coming from Red Gaming Tech. It's been posted on a bunch of different websites. Red Gaming Tech in discussion with people who have suggested that it should be in June. However, June leaves room for 2 different types of events. One would be Computex. That takes place from May 28th to June 1st. And then E3 is from June 11th and finishes on June 13th. I'm not exactly sure that I believe this E3 rumor. I mean, I can definitely anticipate June, but I would I would nearly guarantee it's going to happen at Computex. As is said in this PC Games In article where they suggest it's E3, they also say that AMD seemingly hasn't put a lot of work into E3 in the past, but as the biggest gaming event on the planet, it would be a great place to launch your first affordable mainstream graphics card in many a year. I completely disagree with that. I see no reason why they should launch at E3 over Computex. Computex is for the unveiling of brand new technology. You're not going to unveil a brand new architecture and discuss it in depth and tell everybody the reason why to buy it at a games conference, because they're not NVIDIA. Okay? I'm really salty about the Gamescom announcement. He spent so long talking about the technical details of ray tracing. Gosh, am I wrong, Tank? Like E3 over Computex, which one do you pick?
Computex.
Computex, obviously. Every time. Computex. That's where the tech press goes. If you're not confident in technology, you launch it at a games conference where you have people who don't understand what's going on and you get games journalists to talk about it and hype it up. Unless the plan is that they're not going to launch desktop chips first, and what they're going to do is they're going to announce the PlayStation 5. That could be fine. That would make sense that they have a co-partnered thing with Sony to announce Navi with the PlayStation 5, not desktop graphics cards. I could see that happening. I don't see them launching the architecture at E3. Like, that doesn't make any sense. It has to be connected to Sony or Microsoft somehow that they're actually bringing that out. But that's a video for later. So what do you guys think? E3, Computex? I'll leave a poll right up there. Where do you think AMD should unveil Navi if they're going to be doing so this coming June? Okay, that's enough of speculation. Let's go ahead and talk about Radeon VII. We got a lot more details besides what AMD had actually talked about at CES. So there's a bunch of good stuff. 7nm process, 16 gigabytes of HBM2 memory, 1 terabyte per second of memory bandwidth. We knew this. It has to be 1 terabyte per second of memory bandwidth because there's no 2 gigabyte stacks of HBM2, thereby they need it to be quad stacks so that they can get the memory bandwidth, because cutting down the memory bandwidth on the Radeon VII would actually basically turn it into a Vega 64 because Vega is memory starved. But that doesn't mean that they should have launched it. Like, I can understand there's a technical reason why they have to go with 16 gigs. That doesn't mean I have to practically agree with them. So we can see here that they're using 4 different stacks of HBM2 as opposed to the Vega 64 with the 2 stacks right there. They're saying up to 1.8 times performance in gaming performance per area, not 1.8 times in gaming performance. Like, keep in mind, this is a 7nm shrink down. So this is not better performance, this is more condensed performance. 2 times memory capacity and 2.1 times memory bandwidth. That's all great. 60 compute units, 3,840 stream processors, 1.8 gigahertz peak clock, and it has up to 13.8 teraflops of compute performance on the 4096-bit memory interface. All of that is great. It compares to the 2080 quite admirably. It looks like it's basically going to be a 2080 without ray tracing or deep learning super sampling. However, if we look at some other articles that have come out, AMD could do deep learning super sampling alternative with the Radeon VII through the direct machine learning API, which is done by Microsoft. Microsoft launched DirectML last year in the October 2018 update, and so we should be able to get that with what AMD can do. So in case you're not familiar, machine learning is basically a giant supercomputer taking in information about graphical details in a game, and then the card actually uses AI to render that out, but a supercomputer does all of the research and all of that. It's essentially what DLSS is, except for NVIDIA has it locked down, whereas AMD would be using the open source DirectML because it's AMD, of course they would. It could be something that the 16 gigabytes of HBM2 might allow for, but without tensor cores, it likely would be a much slower process and it couldn't be done as effectively as the RTX cards can do it. But AMD is saying that they could try a GPU approach for something NVIDIA DLSS-like. So in an interview, the senior manager of GPU product marketing at AMD said that, by the way, Radeon VII scored about 1.62 times the GeForce RTX 2080 in Luxmark, which utilizes an OpenCL-based GPU-like ray tracing renderer. Based on those facts, I think NVIDIA's DLSS-like thing can be done with a GPU-like approach for our GPU. Except for it's an OpenCL ray tracing renderer not actually used on ray tracing cores. It's completely different. So it's like comparing apples to oranges here. Of course, NVIDIA might lose at something that they haven't built their architecture to do, just like async compute was a bad thing on 10 series cards. NVIDIA just never intended it for it to happen that way. But it is good news that the Radeon VII is actually pretty decent at it. So we'll see where this goes. Ray tracing, deep learning, super sampling like stuff on the Radeon VII might be a possibility, but I'd rather hold out for ray tracing on Navi, as we talked about in a video that we released 2 days ago about how it's actually something that they're looking into implementing a hardware setup on for ray tracing, but they're just not ready to do it as of yet. And then just to confirm some of like the rumors that I've been hearing in the comment section on our Radeon 7 videos, where people were like, the Radeon 7 is just a cut down compute card. It has FP62 performance. It's gonna be amazing for compute. No, it has no FP62 compute abilities. I don't know where that rumor started, but AMD has confirmed no FP64, zero FP64, except for not zero. It's actually going to be about 860 gigaflops as opposed to what it should be if it was a cut down MI60, which is 6.7 teraflops. So basically not a compute card, not in any sense. It doesn't have double precision. They are really selling this as a gaming card and a content creator card, not a compute card. Vega is not made for compute when it's sold like this. ARG's Vega 56 and 64 were not compute cards. Radeon 7 is not a compute card. Please. There's no FP64. And then there's some news out there that AMD is going to only have 5,000 Radeon 7 graphics cards for sale, which likely means that they're going to be out of stock as soon as they land in retailer stores. That's 5,000 units for the entire world. Now, that's not as bad as it was with the initial Vega launch, because the initial Vega launch, it was rumored that there was only 1,000 units, and those things were sold out in the first day. But it looks like if you do want a Radeon 7, you're gonna have to buy it as quickly as possible. However, AMD has responded to this rumor saying, we will not release production figures, but when released on February 7th, AMD.com official website and AIB vendor partners will have products on sale, and we expect the supply of Radeon 7 to meet the needs of gamers. They're not saying that there's not only 5,000 units. They're saying that we expect that we're going to be able to meet the demand. And considering the demand that I've actually been able to see in our comments, I think about 5,000 units is about right. That's as many people in the world that I could see buying this card. Like, it's already a $700 card, which makes the market for it relatively small. Then secondly, it's coming out after people have already purchased a $700 card in the RTX 2080. I'm not really seeing that many people pick this thing up. And then lastly, on the Radeon 7, while AIB partners should be able to produce Radeon 7, it looks like they're only going to be able to do reference models. It's the same thing that happened with the Vega 56 and 64. We didn't get AIB partner custom coolers for ages after that thing launched. Well, it seems like Radeon 7 is expecting to have a short lifespan because they're not going to show AIB partner models. And according to a tomshardware.de Taiwanese source, saying that you cannot leak anything that does not exist, in reference to third-party designs. And then, okay, I said lastly earlier, but there is a video out on the YouTubes talking about how somebody was able to benchmark Radeon 7. He made a joke about Gamers Nexus somehow, and then Gamers Nexus got roped into being thought that they're the ones who ran the benchmark, and it has nothing to do with Gamers Nexus. You guys probably don't know a whole lot about that. Anyways, that's something that I saw that was on a subreddit somewhere. But it looks like it compares to an RTX 2080 based on the like ultra wide benchmark that he ran at 5120 by 1440. Super helpful information. But good job on him for bamboozling AMD and running the benchmark behind their backs at CES. And then here's an opinion article that I think that we all need to agree upon right now when it comes to AMD. Stop calling Ryzen 3000 series AMD Ryzen 3. Stop it, because Ryzen 3 already exists. We have the Ryzen 3 2200G, we already have the Ryzen 3 whatever. Stop calling it Ryzen 3. You can either call it Ryzen 3K, you can call it Ryzen 3000 series, or you can call it 3rd gen Ryzen. Calling it Ryzen 3 murders the entire intent of what's going on. Yes, we blame AMD here for trying to usurp Intel on their naming scheme. It's stupid. They probably should have thought ahead to the 3rd generation and been like, hey, we probably shouldn't name it Ryzen 3. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. But as PC Games and says here, the specter of the Google-friendly phrase Ryzen 3 3300X. Yeah, that's going to be terrifying. Stop calling it Ryzen 3. And then AMD is actually suing MediaTek over GPU and APU patent infringements, looking for cash compensation for past, continuing, and future infringement because they think MediaTek is violating a few of those patents that they so deliciously put together. 3 of their patents were at the center of AMD's complaint. 2 resulted from its acquisition of ATI in 2016. The other were AMD's from the start. So they're looking for damages, and it's not just Intel and Apple who are lawsuit friendly or lawsuit happy. Looks like AMD is getting in on the squeeze too. And then regarding AMD CPUs for Ryzen 3000 series or Ryzen 3K, it looks like not all AM4 motherboards will be compatible. This actually happened with the Ryzen 2 series. A lot of people think that the AM4 platform is going to be around to 2020, but check your motherboard vendor because some of the BIOS chips actually can't handle the amount of data that's necessary to support upcoming CPUs. There's already a few out there that haven't been able to update because their BIOS chip is too small in memory amount, so they can't can't actually get support for Ryzen 2000 series, and that likely is going to be the case for Ryzen 3000 series. So check your AM4 motherboard's BIOS chip memory size before you actually go ahead and think that you can upgrade to the next gen of Ryzen, because you might be screwdoodled out of it. And then AMD is working with Microsoft to help work on some Threadripper 2 scheduler issues. It's causing some performance crashing on the higher core count of Ryzen, such as the 2990WX, and it looks like they're going to be able to fix it upcoming. And they're saying that in the case of 7-zip, a performance gain of 70% was possible once it was actually fixed. That's a pretty big deal. So in case you have Threadripper 2, Microsoft and AMD are working on it. And then lastly, the last bit of AMD news, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of this year. It's the Sapphire outs an RX 570 graphics card. Great, while after they launched, with 16 gigabytes of memory. As Tech Power Up puts it, but why? Anyways, Sapphire in its response said that they want to bolster the card's cryptocurrency mining power, and giving the Polaris 20 GPU additional memory would improve its performance compared to ASIC miners using the Cuckoo cycle algorithm. This can load up the video memory anywhere from 5.5 to 11 gigabytes, and giving the RX 570 16 gigabytes of it was Sapphire's logical next step. Of course, Cuckoo cycle is being defeated time and again by currency curators. This card will be a stopgap for miners until ASIC mining machines with expanded memory come out, or the proof of work system are significantly changed. Great. 16 gigabytes on Radeon 7, 16 gigabytes on RX 570. It's the year of 16 gigabytes on graphics cards. Where's yours, NVIDIA? That's why you're falling behind. Anyways, that was, oh, my back hurts from carrying AMD that long. Anyways, I'm gonna wrap the video up there. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Please get subscribed to stay up to date on all of our shield-related content. I'm Brett with the UFD Tech channel. You wanna support us directly, check out UFD deals to save money, or go to our Patreon, patreon.com/UFD Tech. Give us cash directly so we can show your favorite products. Anyways, I'll see your smiling faces again in the next video. Love you too.